Opinions expressed on AgriTalk do not necessarily reflect the views of Vance Publishing Corporation, affiliate stations, or sponsors. Call toll-free 888-247-4825 to participate in today's program. Now back to AgriTalk and Mike Adams.
Welcome back. We're at the American Coalition for Ethanol Conference in downtown Kansas City. Our broadcast brought to you by the Kansas Bioscience Authority. Their president and CEO, Tom Thornton, will be joining us in the next segment. Joining us now is our good friend, Brian Jennings, Executive Vice President for ACE. Good to see you again. I think the mood is a little more upbeat this year than a year ago. Plenty of struggles, plenty of challenges, but last year was really a grim time for the ethanol industry in many ways. But you feel like, hey, we're kind of bouncing back here.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent observation. It was a bit grim. That's a good descriptive word last year. And, you know, things are looking up. At the same time, we've got some serious challenges that we're facing, as you very well know, and a lot of those are policy-driven, sort of man-made challenges in Congress. And so a lot of what we're going to be talking about here, Mike, is, you know, what we can do to get Congress to sort of move off the dime to help us create some more demand for ethanol.
Yeah. As our good friend Bob Dineen says, this dysfunctional Congress, I mean, getting any action out of Washington right now on these issues is just a monumental task. It's just, and these are critical issues that very much impact the future of the ethanol industry.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I've been to Washington more times than I would like to tell you. I've been this year, and it's almost toxic. You know, the Democrats and the Republicans are arguing about everything, the color of the sky, you name it. And the fact is, we've got some serious problems clearly facing the country. The jobless numbers continue to be unacceptable. The economy continues to, you know, if it's in a recovery, it's incredibly slow. And industries like the ethanol industry have important matters that need to be taken care of. Tax credits are set to expire at the end of the year. A blend wall is staring us in the face. And we need the Democrats and the Republicans to figure out, we need them to solve problems and not to be fighting. And that's a message we're going to try to deliver to our members here and taking it back to their members of Congress.
It is amazing to me that during what has been the worst environmental crisis in the history of the world, this Gulf oil spill, at this very same time, it seems like the attacks on ethanol have increased. I don't think that's a coincidence by any means, but it's so ironic, the timing of that, to attack an industry that, you know, provides jobs, provides domestic fuel, better for the environment, all those benefits. And it's that message just seems to get lost in the coverage of energy in this country today.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You know, we're on day 107, and now they say the static kill might be working. The fact of the matter is, it's the worst environmental disaster in the history of the United States. We took advantage of it by simply pointing out there's a difference between ethanol and oil, and that Congress ought to take advantage of this to do something about energy policy that creates the opportunity for people to use more ethanol. And as you said, we were attacked for doing so. And attacked by groups such as environmentalists, Mike, who, you know, by attacking us, they, in effect, are defending BP, defending the oil companies. In fact, we have some environmentalists now saying that the exhaust fumes from gasoline are better than the exhaust fumes from ethanol. And we all know that's not the case. So this has really gotten to an outrageous level. We'd like to think that Congress would still take advantage of the problems that were evidenced by the oil spill to help us pivot in a new direction. There's going to be some hope for that potentially in September, but really maddening the way, especially the environmental community, sort of attacked us and by default, defended oil in the wake of this.
We all know retractions never get the same amount of attention as the original headline. But here's another example. The World Bank now admits biofuels were not the main cause for the higher commodity prices, the spikes we saw a couple years ago. World Bank was so critical, saying biofuels would lead to world hunger and causing all these high prices. Now they're saying, hey, well, we admit we were wrong in that. That doesn't get near the attention as that original headline and those accusations that were made.
No, it sure didn't. We and I know RFA and Growth Energy and the corn growers and others are doing what we can to get that story out. But you're right, the World Bank was actually one of the worst accusers of food and fuel. I think they said something like 75% of the food price inflation problem is attributable to corn ethanol. And then they came back a couple of years later, as you indicate, and said, wow, we've looked at the data, and actually the facts indicate that's not true. And that's what we were saying all along, as you know, that speculation and other factors were at play that drove commodity prices, including energy prices, to unsustainable levels. But, we essentially won that with EPA when the governor of Texas tried to get the RFS dismantled, essentially on high feed prices, high food prices. So it was nice that we defeated that back when the food and fuel issue was at its peak. But it's also nice that the World Bank comes out and admits when they were wrong. And frankly, we congratulate them for that. We appreciate it.
Talking with Brian Jennings, Executive Vice President for the American Coalition for Ethanol. Okay, tax incentives for ethanol. 45 cents now, set to expire at the end of the year. Some talk it could be cut to 36 cents. You and I have been talking 36 cents, sure better than nothing. Where do you think this is going to fall?
Yeah, I think in this environment, teachers aren't getting paid for some of the things they're trying to do. The doctors aren't getting reimbursed for some of their Medicare expenses. I think in the House, our sort of floor is a 36-cent VTEC extended for 1 year. It could buy us some time to do some innovative, creative things on the infrastructure side. I think that we all want to do. On the Senate side, we have the benefit of Chuck Grassley. His last year on the Senate Finance Committee, he's essentially the father of the VTEC tax credit, as you know, Mike. We're going to be working very closely with him and the Democrats in Congress to try and get something. We don't want to attack VTEC. We don't want to apologize for the fact that we have it. It's created the infrastructure we need. It's helped create demand for ethanol. It's created jobs. If it goes away, the opponents are going to come after the RFS as well. And so we're going to work very closely with the corn growers and other ethanol groups to try and get whatever we can out of the tax credit extended this year in any way, shape, or form. And meanwhile, work very hard on the infrastructure as well.
What about those that say you don't need a tax incentive? You have the RFS2 that creates a demand for the product, so you don't need the tax incentive.
Yeah, the reason it's not working today the way it should be is that the blend wall it has been hit. And so if we were able to move beyond the blend wall, I agree with those that have indicated the need for the tax credit is less significant then. The problem is I don't see any genuine movement on the part of EPA or Congress to help us move beyond the blend wall now. And if we lose the baseline support that we have for VTEC, again, as I indicated, they're going to come after the RFS as well. Jobs will be lost if we lose VTEC. Ethanol production will decline. The next thing big oil and big food will say is, well, the industry doesn't need the RFS either, and they'll come after that. And so if we lose VTEC, probably most importantly, gas prices are going to go up for consumers. And so maybe the benefit isn't flowing to the ethanol producer today like it has in the past, but if we lose that tax credit, consumers are going to see their prices rise.
I want to come back to this. I mentioned these numbers earlier. This is at a time when there are more attacks on the subsidies for ethanol. Editorials around the country calling for the end to support for ethanol. It's time the industry made it on its own. And this report came out from Bloomberg New Energy Finance. And this is a world number. World governments, so not just the U.S., but world governments last year spent $557 billion subsidizing fossil fuels, petroleum industry, 43 to 46 billion for biofuels. But yet the attacks are, the criticism is on the ethanol industry saying they should go without any subsidy.
Yeah, that's right. $500 billion, over $500 billion for fossil fuels. It's something like 12 times what renewable energy has received, and that includes not just ethanol. It includes other sources. We spend more on foreign oil in 1 week than the federal government pays out to pay for VTEC in an entire year. And so we've got to point out the differences here and the fact that for some of the oil benefits, those tax benefits or subsidies have been around for nearly a century. And so I think we can make a pretty good comparison regarding some of these numbers you've outlined when we're talking with members of Congress during the month of August and September, and work very hard to get whatever we can extended.
How disappointed are you? It looks like the energy bill is delayed. Is that good or bad? I mean, I know there may not have been a lot in there for ethanol, but do we need that? Is that what they were working on? Would that have been good for the ethanol industry?
You know, there wasn't anything in there for ethanol, and so I'm sort of ambivalent about it. We've got to get to it, though, and I think if we do, we'll have an opportunity. We're working with some senators right now on amendments that they'll offer to the energy bill, Mike, some amendments on flexible fuel vehicles and blender pumps and getting that kick-started, obviously an effort to extend the tax credit somehow. And so we need the Senate to move to an energy bill or a tax title to enable our champions in Congress to do those things for us. And so we're hopeful that Majority Leader Reid will in a meaningful way go to this. We'll work with Republicans, make this bipartisan. That's how it's supposed to work, and try to tackle something in the 20-some days they're back when they go in September.
Yeah, there is bipartisan support for biofuels, but the mess in Congress is so great right now, even that doesn't seem to break through.
Yeah, it'd be a great way to sort of rediscover bipartisanship by having someone like Chuck Grassley and Kent Conrad, work together on an ethanol amendment, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Thank you very much. Always appreciate being at your meeting. We always enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for everything, Mike.
Brian Jennings, Executive Vice President for the American Coalition for Ethanol. I mentioned earlier our broadcast today brought to you by the Kansas Bioscience Authority. We'll talk with their president and CEO, Tom Thornton, next. Talk about addressing some national challenges with bioscience in the heartland. That's coming up next. Stay with us. This is AgriTalk.